those first 4 years are where a lot of the foundations are set.
Yeah.
And if you can set the expectation high for all of those underclassmen below you, then it's just the expectation from there on out. So now with like going back, it's pretty similar, you know what I mean? Because the expectation is just the same. And it doesn't really change because he holds them accountable. And once you have that system in place, it's just all good from there.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Better at Beach Volleyball podcast. My name is Mark Burik, and today we have a very special guest. He's coached at a few of our camps. He is the hot new kid on the AVP, relative unknown, and in a year in his first auto main draw, going on to the NORCECA Tour actually tonight, leaving for Mexico the night of this interview. And we're fired up to have him and to learn from him and see what we can pull from his knowledge bank and how he thinks about the game. But huge round of applause. Evan Cory, what's going on, buddy?
How are you?
I'm good. Life is good. Just came off of camp a couple weeks ago, kind of settling into that. And I know you
in
guys
Hawaii right now, right?
I just got back from Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
So back to Cali. My brother's starting a little coffee company, not so little, actually pretty big. And I was out there to help him and actually do a little of like small business consulting, which I'm pretty fired up about. And we made some big steps while we were out there. And now I'm back. So
Sweet.
hanging out. But you've been busy.
Yeah.
You just got through a NORCECA qualifier, and now you are on your way to Mexico tonight. So let's talk quickly about what the NORCECA qualifier was like, and
Mhm.
maybe we could riff on NORCECA. We'll go to the beginning, the whole like intro, where you started playing and everything. So love to hear about the NORCECA event first.
Yeah, I mean, so far it's been smooth. I'm hoping it continues to be that way. But the qualifier, we only had 4 teams, and they take top 2, which I didn't know. But so we won our first game, and then Travis and Timmy, we played them in the second game, and they were like just kind of confused, or like not confused, but they're like, I was confused more, I guess. They're like, do you want to play? And I was like, why wouldn't we play? Like, it's the last round of the qualifier. I want to play for first place. But they're like, yeah, I mean, usually like people rock, paper, scissors for first because usually both teams get in. Well, I was like, well, I'm gonna guarantee that I get in. I don't want to put this up to chance. So smooth, felt really, really good. Bill and I just keep connecting on a better note every single day. So just super excited to keep taking that into competition.
Nice.
You do a lot of stuff in practice and you work on stuff here and there, but it's been good for us. We had the qualifier, which was like, I think a week before. No, it was the Wednesday before Panama City.
Well, before we get into that, how did you sign up for a qualifier? So like, how does the next 21, 23-year-old Evan Cory sign up to go and travel internationally for USA?
Yeah, so that was the difficult part for me, because I'm not in the USA system yet.
Okay.
Like not in the email system or email chain or anything. Thankfully for me, Bill already is, and then my girlfriend Savvy Simo also is, and so they get all the emails, and so I'm just like waiting, like, all right, hey, whenever there's an email sent to you, just let me know, forward it to me, and that'll help me out. But from what I've kind of noticed and seen is the whole registration system for FIVBs and NORCECAs. The USA just has one link that like connects to all of them. So like you can sign up for every single FIVB like on one page, and like you can just do it in one day pretty much, and just go down the list and keep signing up for all of them. And then I think as the NORCECAs pop up, that's when those registration links become available. So it's just, I don't know, it's just weird to me because like I feel
you
like
got to check in on a regular basis, right?
Yeah.
You're never going to know when an event is going to pop up. And NORCECA, if everybody is following Taylor Crabb, he just posted a rager against NORCECA, something that we've all known for 2 decades, that NORCECA is poorly run, poor organizational skills. And so they will, like you said, they'll just pop up with a tournament, or they'll have 15 tournaments on their schedule and 8 of them will get canceled by the end of the
Hmm.
summer. So you have to look at those links from USA Volleyball and you have to be ready to sign up on a whim. And then you show up on, when was this qualifier? Was it a Wednesday or a
It
Tuesday?
was a Wednesday, yeah. So we played Wednesday, and it's just like a Wednesday morning in Manhattan Beach. And I think that's kind of the key for the international part is
Mhm.
like as much as like people want to be able to do stuff from a different area, which like I was doing in New Orleans. You know what I mean? And like I felt like I sustained a good amount of success, but there's like a certain part of time or like a certain period of time where you're like, you know what, if I want to go play international, you have to be here. You have to be in California. And it's super unfortunate from like I mean, there's certain circumstances I think like Taryn and Kristen had like the fortunate circumstance of being able to go and get into a qualifier with 0 points. But
Mm.
on the men's side of things, that's not a reality. There's too many men's teams that are just going and signing up, and like, um, there's teams with like Travis and Timmy, Travis Murder and Timmy Brewster, both have solid points, and there's like futures event, which is like the lowest tier FIVB, and
Mhm.
they can't get in with like 3 solid finishes. So in order to be able to do that, you have to be here and you have to be trying to do these Norsekas because that's how you got to get points and try and get into the game and try and get skins in the game. And I kind of noticed that in the off season, and was just like, screw it, let's go for it.
Yeah, I think it's still one of those weird truths of being, I'm not going to say competitive, but being involved in w- in the ability to go and compete internationally for the USA. You can many people have proven that you can get to the AVP without being in California.
Mhm.
Is it easier from a training standpoint and competitors and the pool of partners that you can say like, somebody tweaked their ankle, so I'm going to practice with this person today, and then you start seeing who you can play with. Just from the international standpoint of saying, oh yeah, there's a qualifier next week and it's on a Wednesday and there might be a tournament that Saturday, so now you've got 2 round trip flights,
which
or
is
a
which is
multi-city
what
flight.
the case was because Wednesday was the Norseca qualifier, and then Panama City was Friday, Saturday, and
Mm.
so we played Wednesday, and then I ended up flying out Wednesday night and going. So I mean, if it was Thursday, it was originally on Thursday, and they switched it to Wednesday because everybody who was playing pretty much was like, hey, we're playing this Panama City qualifier, we need to be there,
Yeah.
and so can you switch the qualifier to Wednesday? So they thankfully did that because our goal, I mean, since we were already qualified for Austin, we're like, you know what, we're not going to go to Panama City. Panama City was more for just a practice for us, you know what I mean? Kind
Yeah.
of dry run of competition and feeling each other out. And we're like, well, we're going to just do the Norseca then, if that's the case, and just play on Thursday. So thankfully they ended up moving that. But like, it wouldn't have been possible if I didn't live out here because I would have had to go from New Orleans, and then I would have had to change my trip
Hmm.
to LA and then LA back. And so it would have just been way too much.
Yeah. Not easy if you're not here for the trials, for the tryouts, and involved and in the face with USA Volleyball. I did that. I guess this is 7 years ago now, and I just realized, oh my goodness, all of these, the Norseca playoffs, where all the USA teams compete against each other to see who goes to the Continental Tour,
Mm-hmm.
and that usually will help you build some low World Tour points, and hopefully, that gets you your way to the World Tour. You don't even know that those exist when you live, in New Orleans, when you live in New York. It's You're just like, what is there? We have to use like a ball that they sell at Toys R Us to compete in this to compete in this thing where there are no fans, there are 4 referees, and everybody's just battling against each other. It's so funny that the Continental Qualifier, something that's so important for the career of an international player, of a future international player, is a fanless event. It's not that they're not allowed, but it's literally 4 refs, just half of the AVP, and just battling. And it feels like another practice day. It
Mm-hmm.
really does. But it's important for you to be able to get that international experience.
Yeah.
And
And
we go ahead.
thankfully they've increased Norseca points, like Continental Tour points. So now like if you win it's like 80% of like the futures. So like it's
Okay.
actually kind of worth it to go and like try and get these points, because it's not like, oh, you're just getting like pennies on the dime here. It's actually decent amount and kind of worth it now.
It used to be that, like when I started, I think it was 7 years ago, we qualified for two different sections, and when we were going, one qualifier would qualify you for 2 to 3 events. And like I said, you'd usually go to one because 2 of them might be canceled by Norseca. So you're just like hoping that you qualify for the right events where all of them don't get canceled.
Mm.
And that did literally happen. But at that time, the Norseca points, through Norseca's and a couple of world tours, I was able to get to top 100 rankings in FIVB just through continental events, which is
Mhm.
kind of insane if you think about it now, because now you have all of those tiers,
Yeah.
and Norseca's pretty low. And we're not going to get into all of the point structures and everything today, because to
It's
track it
too
as a
complex.
player is
Too
difficult
complex.
enough. You can't even explain it to a fan. I'm like, you gotta, I don't know, just show up and win a lot, and then you can get into stuff. If that's all you do, if you just win, you're
My
set.
my best explanation is kind of what me and Logan did last year. Is like, all right, hey, look, we won a lot and we won at all of these really difficult events. Now we're in a good spot.
Yeah,
And and like that's, in order to make it, that's what you have to do.
exactly. Cool. All right. Well, a good little life update, but let's run through some of the questions so people can get to know you. All right.
Yeah.
So Evan, we just want to know, when and why did you start playing beach volleyball?
Yeah. So I started playing when I was about 14 years old. I got into it kind of just by chance. It was
Mm,
more like Coconut Beach, which you've been to. So anybody who doesn't know Coconut Beach out in New Orleans, which is where I'm from and just recently moved from out to California. Um, I just played there, but I didn't play to start. I just went and watched. They have like these massive, like, I mean, you saw the complex is massive, but
Huge,
20 something courts,
like a football
and
field.
yeah, and in these 20 something courts, they run leagues every night, like these beer leagues where people just go out, have fun with their friends. And so my mom and my dad did it, but mostly my mom would take me out on like Thursdays or Friday nights. I can't remember exactly which night that she played, but we play. She'd go out and play with her friends on the night, and
Mm,
just being a competitor, I always played sports growing up and stuff. I mean, you watch a sport and like, you just want to play. It's so hard to just be a spectator sometimes, especially as a kid. You mean, as a kid, you're just like, you want to go out. You got to have so much energy. You just want to go play. And so
People
I
always,
always,
I get made fun of all the time when people are like, "Hey man, do you watch basketball? Do you watch baseball?" I go, "Man, I play sports. I don't watch them. Like, I know no stats about any sports, any teams. But if you throw me a ball, like, yeah, let's go play. But I'm not gonna sit in my
yeah,
living room ever and sit down and watch something when I could be out playing it."
yeah. So I'm like dying to play, just always dying to play whenever she brings me out, and like they have their team set or whatever, and like she just never let me play. They would never let me play, and I'm
Oh
just so
wow.
frustrated. And so a couple weeks into the season or whatever of one of their seasons, they need a sub and they can't find a sub for that night, no matter like who they call their friends and whatever. And so my mom, like on the way, she's like, "Hey, like we don't have anybody to play. You can sub with us tonight." And I was like, "Yes, finally!" And like super excited. And I mean, we're down on like net 14, and like I mean, and we're down in the boonies. Like I
Mm,
think people are more worried about the beer specials than they are the score of the game.
sure.
But I get into the game and they were like, "Wait, he's actually like pretty good compared to us, like just naturally." And so I kind of became a regular part of their team,
Cool.
and we worked our way up from like net 14 to like net 7 or 8, like eventually throughout each season, which was kind of cool. And then the owner of the complex at the time, Bruce White, was pretty big on trying to develop boys juniors. And anytime he saw like a juniors boy out there, was just like, "Hey, we need you out here. We need like he wants to help." So he'd like coach us for free, and like just like before the leagues would start, would just like bring you out and like run you through these drills and just like absolutely just demolish like any kind of like self-confidence you had about your volleyball game. He's but I mean, it made you tough, and it made you a lot, it made me a lot better. There was about 8 of us out there, and we got so much better through that. And then through that, just kind of you keep getting picked up. People start seeing you. And I would go out. My mom loves to tell a story like 6 nights a week. So all
Right.
5 nights that there were leagues, and then the Saturday that they'd run a tournament out of the complex.
Cool.
She'd drop me off at like 5, 6 p.m. on a weeknight, and then just pick me up at 11 o'clock. And I just go out and play for like 5 or 6 hours. I'd pepper with whoever I could. I'd play pickup games with whoever I could.
So
Just
you were
anything.
you were playing before you were being coached, unlike I think
Yeah.
like a lot of juniors. Okay, so you picked it up at the time when most other players are joining a team.
Hmm.
You were just picking it up, kind of like a lot of the grown-ups pick it up, where they're just like
Yeah.
in their mid 20s, or what's this beer league? But you were doing that before you even joined a team.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, and just kind of learned through that. And I mean, the more you play out there, the more people are like, oh, this kid's getting kind of good. And so you just keep getting picked up by better and better teams. And like
Hmm,
within 2 years, I was already up to like court one, which is, I mean, like the
right.
top court. And so, thankfully
Did you
had,
play any high school volleyball during that?
there's no high school volleyball in Louisiana. So,
Zero
uh,
men's high school volleyball, but there is for
zero.
women.
Yes.
Hmm,
And I mean, I went to an all boys school, so I didn't even have the opportunity to like try and protest that, you know what I mean? Or
right.
like I could like try and play on the women's team or something like that. But I started playing team wise, I guess, when I was 16. I joined the indoor club,
Cool.
Bayou Boys, and but there was no tryouts or anything. So basically, we had 8 kids from all across Louisiana, and you showed up to the gym and you were on the team. And so
Awesome.
that was our team. But I mean, fortunately, we had a really good coach. One of the kids on our team, his mom was a multiple time state champion coach for the girls side in high school, and she just taught us to be really disciplined. And I mean, we didn't really have a lot of height or anything, but we had a lot of heart, and so we
Mm,
got really good at passing, and we got really good at defense, and really good at serving to zones. And as most people know at a higher level, that's going to win you a lot of volleyball games.
mm,
And so our like whole model around things was like we had really good passers, and then our setter was pretty good because his mom was the coach, and so he'd been playing volleyball for a long time. And our whole thing was like, just get the ball up and set Evan. And so, I mean, she took stats my 18's year, and I hit 70% of all possible balls.
oh man,
So, which is absurd for indoor. I mean, like
that's
maybe
absurd for
maybe
indoor.
you're getting 20%, like if you're like the guy on any other team, like
Hmm.
20 to 25% maybe. But no, 70% of the possible balls is what I was
Dang.
contacted on the third contact.
Woof. And then you went and you played in college, right?
I did. I went and played indoor at Lincoln Memorial in
Did they
Tennessee.
re- did they recruit you, Lincoln Memorial? Did they recruit you out of that club system, or did you have to send a tape to the coach, or what happened there?
So I joined. There's like a recruiting website called NCSA, and I joined that. Since I was like for the whole two years I was playing from 16 to 18, I was on there,
Mm.
and I wasn't really getting like much interest or anything. And like,
Well, you're from
uh,
Louisiana. No one's gonna even pay attention. Yeah, I'm sure he's the best in Louisiana. Like people would
exactly. But like that
automatically
was
try to cut you down.
I have emails where coaches were like, no thanks, you're from Louisiana, you don't have volleyball. I was like, what? Like you don't even look at the tape or anything. Like don't even come watch me play. Like you at least give me the shot. Like give me the
Hmm.
chance. But so at that point I'd almost just given up. I had D3 and NAIA stuff, but I was like, I know I can play at the best level, and if I'm not playing at the best level, I'm not going to do it because I know I can compete with all these people. And so I was like, but all or nothing. And I was like, you know what? If y'all aren't gonna take a chance on me, I'm just not gonna do it. I'm gonna go. I mean, I was good in school, and so I was like, I'm just gonna go be really smart and go to a really high academic school and just get a normal career,
Right.
and play beach volleyball on the side of that. But
Mm.
thankfully, um, going into my senior year, I was not even gonna play club actually. So my 18th year, I was like, I'm just not gonna do it.
Oh wow.
But my stepdad, before he was even my stepdad, he was just dating my mom, and he was like, "No, I think you should." And so he literally gave up his entire salary because I didn't want to make my mom or my dad pay anything because I mean we weren't well off financially for that stuff. And so I was like, I don't want to waste their money if I'm not going to go do this in college. Like this is the whole reason we've been doing it. And he was just like, I'll coach the team. And he played professionally in Puerto Rico indoor. And so like,
Huh.
he knows the game pretty well. And so he gave up his entire salary for the club season so I could play and try and go get a scholarship. And he's like, you need
Wow.
to go do this. You're gonna really, really regret this later in life if you don't at least go try for a year. You need to try it for a year. If you don't like it, fine, whatever.
Mm.
You can quit and come back home after a year. But if you don't go and try, that's just like a waste of your potential because you're too good for that. And so eventually, Lincoln Memorial doesn't even call me until March of my senior year. First phone call, first contact. Because of the first year of the program was my first year.
Oh,
So the
wow.
coach
Okay.
had just gotten hired, and he was like scrambling in March. He's like, dude, I mean, like it's really late in the recruiting cycle. I don't know who to pick up or anything. There's not going to be much left for me.
Hmm.
But he called me up, and I was like, yeah, I'd be interested. So I end up going on a visit in April, right after I win FUDs. I win FUDs on a Sunday and then drive back home, get on a plane Monday morning at like 5 a.m. So I'm on like 4 hours, 3 hours of sleep, and get on a plane, go visit this school with no team. The coach doesn't even have an office yet. And he's just telling me on this like pipe dream of like what it could be. And I committed basically because like he was like, yeah, like I really feel like we could build this around you. I want to build something special here. And like to me it was really special because it was still in the southeast, and like I feel there's just like that tie to me that will always
Yeah.
be to the southeast. And it's like, you know what, I can build something bigger in the southeast for volleyball, and that's really cool to me. And
Awesome.
over the 4 years, that's kind of what happened. I mean, this year was the first year, I mean, which is 6 years into the program. We beat 3 top 15 programs, ranked in the top 15 for the first time. And for 6 years into a program, that just doesn't happen in men's volleyball.
Hmm.
It's really difficult to try and break into that top upper echelon. And we had a really, really good coach, John Cash, who just, I don't know, he just knows how to build a program. He's just a great leader, knows how
Nice.
to inspire people to do great things. And he's continuing to just build a great program there. And it feels good to have been a big part of that because those first 4 years are where a lot of the foundations are set.
Yeah.
And if you can set the expectation high for all of those underclassmen below you, then it's just the expectation from there on out. So now with like going back, it's pretty similar, you know what I mean? Because the
Hmm.
expectations is just the same. And it doesn't really change because he holds them accountable. And once you have that system in place, it's just all good from there.
So, in all of that, we mentioned your mom who finally let you play. We mentioned Bruce White who uh, had the complex and then pushed you as a kid. Had your stepdad who didn't let you quit the sport, essentially.
Yeah.
And then you had a great college coach, and now I imagine you've had a few mentors since then. So, who do you think was the most influential person there in your game, your career? Like, what was the key person that you think that you could attribute it all, like turning forward to or accelerating you?
Yeah. So I think all of those people have had tremendous influence in my life that were just mentioned. But I think the turning point was really so I graduated during COVID. So during 2020, world shut down. Like, so my professional career kind of started when there was no tournaments.
Right.
I was thankful enough. I got back home in May, and I just started working with Joey Keener,
Hmm.
he's been my coach for the past 2 years. And I mean, he's not out here now or anything, but still talk to him. He still watches like all my practice videos. We still talk about like adjustments and stuff that he sees. But he literally day in and day out from COVID May of 2020 until I just left in March of 2022, literally 5 days a week. If I was in town, coached me for 2 hours for free.
For
Every,
free.
yeah.
So this is
Uh,
just somebody who believes in you and loves volleyball.
yeah, truly, truly loves volleyball. Loves seeing the development of people. And he just I mean, I played against him. He played open against me in Louisiana when I was younger, and my first open win actually ever was against him in a finals. So it's kind of like a cool full circle moment. But he's just truly wants to make our area and our region known for volleyball, and he kind of brings this mentality. And kind of having that chip on your shoulder. And I mean, a lot of the people from our area kind of have that same mentality because he kind of does coach anybody that's good from our area on the men's side is from him.
Right.
So I mean, we have somebody like Ian Bicko who just goes and beats Eric and Avery in Panama City, which is a hell of a win for them. And I mean, like that is credited probably a lot to Joey because I mean, this guy just gives so much for us to try and be successful. And I mean, we thankfully are able to give back to him a little bit by helping him coach his juniors club. But I mean, he just gave so much and poured so much energy, not only like knowledge wise, but also emotionally and trying to help develop us as people. So it's just, I can't say enough good things about him.
What do you think the best thing he gave you was? Was it a mindset? Was it a skill set? A way of thinking about the game? A strategy? What thing did he implement into your game that you think is the most important that you like to hold on to?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people probably mostly look at coaches for their ability to teach a certain skill or teach a certain way of like a system or something.
Mm,
But one thing that he teaches a lot is one is creativity. So he's always going to be looking for new ideas. We're always playing around with new different things. Like he'll go and watch a video. Like he just watches every FIVB match and he tries to find similarities. And he's like, all right, I've been seeing a lot of these similarities in these like top players. Let's go and try this out and see how we like it in our system and see if it works.
mm.
So one, his creativity, and then two, I would say is like his social intelligence, which is kind of sounds weird.
No, I
But
get
I
it.
think in beach volleyball, that is like extremely, extremely important
It's
because like
everything for beach volleyball
it
coaches.
is because we have one, he knows how to get to every single player.
Mm,
So he's able to try and pull out the best of your abilities. He really makes like he makes your personality shine, which is huge. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like you can feel like you can be yourself, and I feel like when you're most yourself on your court, that's when you play your best because you're just playing freely. You're not thinking about anybody else. You're not thinking about anything. So he unlocks that potential of just letting you like express yourself on the court, and then also like the part of like knowing how to talk to your partner, how to communicate effectively, and how to get the best out of your partner. Because I mean, beach volleyball, you rely so much on another human being that
mm,
like if you're not getting the best out of your partner, you're probably not going to win. So really trying to figure out how people's brains work, and like he's really good at that and trying to teach. He's taught me a lot about okay, like you've got to know the personality of your partner, how they receive like compliments, and how to make them feel like they're the man.
Does he give you any tricks to do that? Is there a number one thing that you attribute back to Joey that you say, I always do this with my partners and Joey gave that to me?
I think it's always like just making them feel like they are the best player at the tournament.
Mm,
And how they receive that is different based on the person. So like somebody like Bill, who is a little bit more to himself, Logan's kind of the same way, a little
mhm.
bit more to themselves. Maybe you don't make them feel like, you know what I mean? Like you don't want to give them all this attention because some people don't like the attention, you know what I mean? But there's different ways. So like, but there's also people who it's like, okay, this person, like everybody in this complex needs to know that this guy is the best player, and you can scream it all you want. But like there's different ways of getting that to people, but I think it's just making your partner feel like they are the best player in the tournament.
I love that.
However you figure that out, and that takes time, which is difficult. And I think that's why it's so valuable to me because it's difficult because there's so many different things that go on in people's brains up here that like you don't know, and you've got to almost experiment with it and see how they react to things and pay attention whenever you say something how they react to things.
I love that. I love that. We talk about that a lot in our courses and camps about exactly what you just said. Making somebody feel like they are the best person on the court, in the tournament, on the beach, in the AVP, wherever. Because when you nitpick and you give like little criticisms along the way, each one of those is a small chip in somebody's confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And after 40 points, when it's 19-19 in the second set,
A
do
lot
you
of
want
chips.
that person, yeah, you want that person feeling like a god, or do you want them feeling like they've got 19 things they need to fix?
Yeah.
There's a huge difference, and most people do not understand that in any way, and they don't understand how to implement that. And I've had moments where I've struggled with that, and then I got back to it. I think in college I was a fantastic teammate, and just because I had no skill, I
Mhm.
was just raw energy, and that's what I brought. And then once I started acquiring skill, I think I neglected the energy for a while, and now I'm
Mhm.
sort of back to an even keel where it's like, all right, now I've got the energy and I know how to make you feel good. And that the reason that I got on a court in indoor initially, or even on the team, was solely because of the energy, no skill whatsoever. And if you can attribute that both in indoor and in beach, if you can bring the positive energy that makes other people feel better, do things, you can have an effect on the game without touching the ball.
Mhm.
And it sounds like Joey did that as a coach,
Yeah.
did, uh, and you can do that as a teammate. So I love that.
Yeah, and I think a thing too is the other team feels it, you know what I mean?
Mm,
And it's like not a good feeling when you feel like when the other side feels like they're unstoppable, then like that puts a little bit of pressure back on you. So like most people in that kind of crumble. I mean, there's great teams out there that they're gonna be like, you know what, we're gonna butt back. But
yeah,
most people don't like to butt heads with that energy. And like
right.
that creates an advantage for you in the long run because there's so much energy and positivity and like yeah, we're gonna win this game. That like sometimes whenever you get a little bit of a lead, teams are like, you know what, they are gonna win this game.
Yeah, even when you're playing like young kids, they're in an open tournament and you're kind of ready or assuming that you're going to beat them down, and they come out with all this energy and they get one kill and they fire themselves up and they start screaming. You're just kind of waiting for them to calm down. You're like, just shh. You look at them like one of the dogs that are yapping. And if they
Yeah.
never calm down, you're just
Then
like,
you're like,
man,
oh
are these
crap.
like, when are these guys just going to give up and know their place? And the people who don't know their place by the end of the match, who stay fired up, those are the ones who keep getting the most points. But the people that die down, the teams that, like, once you knock them down 3 times and they stay down, those are teams that they don't get to play. They don't get to get better for the next set and a half,
Hmm.
because they just feel like a beaten dog. So they're just down there and they won't come back and they won't attempt to learn, because all they're thinking is, I'm waiting out this loss. But the people that stay high energy and fired up for every point, they're figuring out each individual point how to win. And that's the team that's going to keep getting better. Those are the athletes that are going to keep rocking.
Hmm.
Let's move on a little bit to some skills for you. It sounds like you've just always been a hitter. You fly. You might be the best jumper on the AVP right now. It's between you and Troy, I guess. Maybe Buttinger. But it sounds like hitting maybe came natural to you. But what do you think was or is right now the hardest skill or technique that you're developing or have developed?
Yeah, so for me right now, I think it's just still a full work in progress is my defense. Just because I didn't transition to defense. I never played defense until the end of 2020. So
Because
as
you
in
jumped high,
there's
so everybody was like, oh, I'll put you at the net.
oh, especially at home, yeah, where I'm the tallest person and I jump high. So like, yeah, of course you're gonna go to the net.
Yeah, the
And then,
five
but if
ten
you look at
50-year-old is like putting you up there, and he's like, great, you can block for me. It's like, okay.
exactly, but it's just and I'm sure you know, there's so much nuance to like a high level defense, and just learning that and kind of honing in those skills for me is just a work in progress every day. It gets frustrating at times for me because like there's certain points where you reach a high level match and you're like, oh, there's another level that I don't know yet.
Mm,
But you want to know, but it just takes time. And so I think the big joke right now, I have Evie Matthews as my coach, and he's a really high level thinker.
yeah.
Guy knows a lot about the game. But
Hey,
sometimes
congrats
it's
to
like,
him. Sarah and Kelly just
I know,
won gold.
wow, they
So
look
he
incredible
is
right
still leading top-notch teams.
now.
Still.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Go.
No, you're good. But our strength and conditioning coach, because he knows Evie pretty well as well, and he's like, you gotta tell this dude's brain to slow down, because like you said, you only have been playing this for a year and a half, 2 years now.
Hmm.
And Evie's been teaching this and playing this for like 30 years.
Right.
So you've got to tell him he's like on that calculus level and you got to get him down to algebra. Like tell this dude to teach you the algebra before you get to calculus. And then we can start talking. But basically it's just starting to learn, like it's even still the basic stuff, you know what I mean? And like positioning and finding out what makes hitters think a different way. And even for me, sometimes it's like the angle and the softness I need to create on some of my digs, just because it's not their muscle memory yet. I haven't
Okay.
been able to play, or haven't played and practiced enough reps to fully have the comfortability in that yet.
So is it the positioning? Are you currently working on the positioning that will make somebody hit a certain shot, or just being in the right position for a certain dig or a certain shot? What exactly, if you could dive down, because the people who are listening here are trying to figure out where they are in their game and one actionable thing that they can fix, or that they know that you're working on, so maybe they can work on the
Yeah.
same thing.
I think for me is the most important thing right now is my base position.
For a one
Uh,
block?
so for just like all kinds of blocks. So when I'm first getting into the court, like figuring out what is like a good spot in the middle of the court for me to kind of start making my moves.
Hmm.
Like a lot of people talk about starting in that middle back position and kind of making your move from there.
Do you like that
But
position? Entering like straight through the middle? For me, I've gotten completely rid of that. I did it for the first 8 years, and I'm just like,
mhm,
I'm never entering middle again. I'll
yeah.
I'll go very near my position or wherever I think this person needs to see me in order to get the next dig.
Yeah, so I'm kind of figuring out that like based on the block we're running, there's different positioning. And then like you can change that up throughout a match to give people different looks. And like if you're playing for shots, okay, maybe my positioning on like a line block will just be in the angle every single time to start. And then one time I'll go middle. And
Mm,
then what does that make the hitter think, or something like that? You know what I mean? So changing all of that up to kind of play that chess game with the hitter and try and getting some, especially against teams that shoot a lot,
yeah,
really trying to give them different visual cues and really trying to make them think and giving them and I like late moves and stuff like that. I think the other thing that I'm really working on right now is staying balanced when the hitter is attacking, because I think I get into this like rhythm of like, oh, this is the shot they're supposed to hit whenever I'm making this move. And so I'm just making this move here, and like it needs to be a little bit more intentional. And I
mm,
think that's my problem right now is okay, making that intentional move so that I'm ready to still move whenever they attack that ball.
I like that. So you're out of the phase, which I think is important for a lot of players to be out of, where you enter middle, hide your position by sitting in the middle, and then you
Hmm.
either jump into the diagonal if you got a line
Hmm.
block, or you jump into the parallel if you got a cross block.
Yeah.
Now you're trying to play the full point, and that often doesn't work, because as soon as you jump into the diagonal
Oh,
as a
the and
defender,
high level players are going to see that. Game
high
over.
line for sure, and you can't even if you think it's a high line, you're too late because you're off balance by that late
Mhm.
jump. But if you do that sparingly and you figure out other positions, and then you don't just go for that dig, right? You say, what did this make them do, or what did I do that made them do that? What did they see? You kind
Yeah.
of figure that out instead of playing. I think way too many players play each point 1 point at a time.
Hmm.
They sit there and they get so pissed every time they don't get a dig. And then you'll see top level players who just, the other team gets a very clean kill straight to the ace, and there was not even a move to the ball. And they're like,
They don't care. It's whatever.
yeah.
It's gaining. Okay, what are they doing every time that we do this? If I serve them here, what are they doing? If I serve them here, where are they attacking from? Are they struggling to pass here? If they're attacking from this arm slot, where is their shot most likely going to? All that.
Yeah. And it's not just, I think they see me here, I can't let them see me here. Sometimes I want them to see me here. I want to sit enough to make sure that I dig a hard shot if they're swinging every time. Because
Mhm.
if you're jumping and you're moving when somebody's
You're not
swinging
digging a
hard,
hard ball.
no way. No way. So you got to choose, like, light on your feet or dug in, depending on what type of player you think you're against or what
Mhm.
scenario they're in.
Yeah, and I think somebody who's helped me out a lot with that is Ty Trambly, who I mean, just excellent defender.
Oh man.
Like and been able to pick his brain and work with him a little bit, which has been, I mean, so much help to my game. And but just the way he talks about defense, and sometimes he's like, you know what, just stand in the angle, make them. He's like, you know what, hit this ball through me, hit it through
Mm,
me. I'm gonna dig you, and then when you dig them, it's just demoralizing. And that's what he's like. You want to demoralize your opponent by like they bring their best stuff and you just dig them. And he's like,
yeah.
that's my favorite thing on the court. 'Cause, I mean, that guy's unfortunately, I mean, like his defense is just so incredible, but he did struggle at side out at times, and
Mm,
like but I mean, he was just like, that was like whenever like us or somebody like me getting a big kill and just like swinging through a block or swinging through a defender, that was his defense. He was like, all right, get it past me. Like, yeah, like that's when like if he gets a great dig, that's when he struts his stuff.
I think the people who come from indoor, and Ty did, so he stood down the line because he was a setter in college. He stood down the line against some of the biggest hitter in the country, some of their cross bodies.
Hmm.
And I played libero for a while in indoor, and that mentality of this is my spot. I'm going to wear this ball and I'm going to dig it. Not my whole team needs to trick this person into hitting something, but just standing in there and saying, I got to dig this ball by just sitting still. People lose that in beach volleyball when they make that transition.
Yeah.
They lose the ability to just hold their ground. And I think people lose a lot of digs because they're so movie all the time. There's a time and a level where you can get movie, but at some point, you got to go back to that indoor and saying, this is my zone. If
Y-
you hit hard diagonal, I'm digging you. And I did the same thing. And I think liberos do the same thing in indoor where it goes, this is my zone. If he hits this way, I'm lipping him. If he hits another way, hopefully my team is there. But
Yeah.
I don't think beach players do that because they worry about that whole open space,
Hmm.
in the other thing, and they say, but what about that? But what about that? But what about that? And if you think, but what about three different things, and you don't
You're not
choose
gonna
the
dig
one thing
it.
that you're going to defend, right? Yeah, people need to hold on to that, to the hold the ground phase a little bit more, or at least try it. Try it for a few points.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're currently working on defense, positioning, softening the touches, and then not entering the same way every time so that you can create that look. I
Hmm.
love that. Well, do you have any warnings or advice for exactly, one tip for players who want to be like you, who are trying to do that same thing? What is one thing that's working for you while you're doing that?
So one thing that's helped me, and I mean, I'm naturally like, or not naturally, but like I built my body up pretty big throughout college, and like so physically, like I'm pretty strong. But I think during that time, I also didn't stretch enough. So I mean, like I'm strong, but at times, like I'm not like you. I'm not gonna be doing pretzels everywhere on the court. And I'm not super flexible. And one thing that Ty really stressed to me was like, dude, you need to have like the loosest hips to help with your defense because it helps in making those small shifts. It helps in digging those balls and getting lower to the ground so you can contact that ball lower. And just I found that like the week of stretching or 2 weeks of stretching I've done since Ty's been like, hey, you need to be more flexible. Like and my defense is already improving in all of that, which I think is crazy. And I think another thing would just be watching film of yourself.
Mm,
That's helped me out a lot because there's sometimes that like you go back and watch and you're like, whenever I was saying like I'm not intentional with my moves sometimes,
yeah.
like you don't even think about it. You know what I
What do you
mean? And
mean
like you
by when you say intentional with your moves? How do you break
so
that
like
down?
I'm like making I'm like my move isn't as like fast and efficient as it should be to get to my spot so I'm ready. You know what I mean? It's kind of a little bit slower. It's like I'm like kind of getting in there, but I'm not like all right, I'm here and like I'm ready to move whenever the person's hitting the ball. It's like I'm like getting ready when they're hitting the ball when as opposed I should be ready like a split second before.
Mm,
So that intentional move of like a quick shuffle versus like a open up step, that was my thing. So like I'm opening up with one leg and then shuffling, which is like a half a second, not even. And
yeah,
so I'm like, if I make that a quick shuffle instead of opening up with my step, um, I'm there in enough time and I'm ready to move.
nice. And
So
then
that
cueing in on looking and positioning your body at the attacker while doing that. I think
yes,
that shuffle that you're talking about, because I've gotten into that too, where you shuffle to a place, but you're not actively saying, while I'm moving, I should also be able to dig. Like if you imagine that you could dig every single ball that, like if 1,000 balls were being machine gunned at you as
yeah,
you're moving, would you be able to dig every
yeah,
thousand one of those balls? Okay, so that's what you mean by intentional is,
yeah.
are you getting into a position and making a move so that you are completely ready to dig at every moment or the right moment? How do you interpret it?
I think it's just being in a ready position before they attack the ball, because I think I'm getting ready as they're attacking rather than being ready before they're attacking. And I think that's a big difference, because I think that's the difference between you're loading on your left leg versus you're balanced in the middle. And then if you can't push back to the line if you're loaded, and then you know what I mean. So I think it's that. So I'm balanced before they attack, not when or as they attack.
But what about the people that say that then you're giving up their spot? Once you're staying there and you're balanced, what about the people that say, well, okay, but if I've stopped in that position, then they know where I am and then they can shoot away from me. How would you answer somebody that asks that?
I think I mean, you're gonna start reaching a high level where people are looking almost as they're attacking the ball. But like if you're set like after the jump, most of the time you'll be in a good position that they're not going to fully see you, or you can just make a little small move here or there with your upper body to where your lower body is still balanced so they can still think something else. But I think I mean, there's a certain I mean, and for most of the people probably listening to this, if you're set after the person is in the air, nobody is going to be seeing that. You know what I mean? And if they do, you should have a blocker that's decent enough, and if they just see you in the angle and pop it up high line, you should be balanced and ready to move to that spot. And you should be, and if they're seeing that at that kind of a level, then that person probably shouldn't be playing in a lower level tournament.
Sure. Yeah, and I think there's a couple things to unpack there as well. It's the people who only jump 4 or 5 inches. Say you're playing those little jumps. There's not that time to move in between takeoff and jump. So for those people, maybe get more stable earlier, because if they're jumping that low, they're probably not going to shoot or pound the ball effectively anyway.
I was going to say the time that you're going to have to chase down your shot's going to be greater. So let them see you and then make them hit a good shot and beat you, because you're going to have time to go and run that thing down.
Right. But if you're playing against a high flyer, then you need that drill of let them jump, then I move. And that that red light, green light situation where you can't even lean. You got to stay completely neutral, take off, move, and balance, before the hit. And that has to be so quick and so small. But a lot of defenders, what I used to do is you make this giant move instead of a half of a shuffle step, into that position. And that giant move puts you so off balance that now all of the positioning work you've done is now eradicated because you're off balance. So I think people could probably do with some smaller shifting, like little half shuffles, and that practice of seeing somebody jump, like you were saying, then moving. I think a lot of people, they move on the jump, and that's too early, because I can still look at you while I'm jumping. I can't really see you too well, like way after I'm in the air. But while I'm jumping, if you're leaning or moving,
I was going to say, if you're taking your look in that step close, as your eyes are dragging up to the ball, you're still seeing in your peripherals what's kind of going on, just a little bit. And so, I mean, if you make that big move whenever my peripherals are on their way up, and I'm seeing that big move, I'm like, all right, easy.
Nice. You do have, and at least you project it, just a ton of confidence, and you've backed it up with big wins, consistent big wins. The times, I want you to describe for somebody a time when you weren't feeling confident and what you did to overcome it. Do you just shut it up? Do you bury it deep down? Do you go back to the drawing board? Do you have any times where you weren't confident, or you were just drilled it into your body that I will be supreme confidence the whole time?
No, I mean, through this whole journey of defense, like all of last year, everybody kind of was like, you're not a defender. Like people, I mean, like I still hear it from people out here. They're like, you're not a defender, you're a blocker. And I get pretty pissed about it. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, all right, well, I'm not a defender, but I took a 9th place in an AVP, and most
And
people
they're
can't
only
say
saying
that.
that. They're only saying that because there are no blockers left, and they all want you to block for them.
But I was like, okay, well, I mean, at that point, I was like, well, I took a ninth, but like in the beginning of it all, and like I'm struggling, and like it's frustrating. My entire off season of 2021, so like from like November of 2020 to like March of 2021, it was a struggle.
Mm.
Like there was times where I just like go home and I'm like, I'm not going to be a defender. There's no way. I'm not good enough. Like, um, but I think one, Joey helped me out a lot with that because he just, no matter what, unwavering, was like, no, you're good enough. Like day in and day out, he's like, we're gonna go through struggles, but this is the process. And then two is just like, I feel like most of my life I've had to just bet on myself and like just roll with it, whatever cards were dealt. And I was like, you know what, my hand's gonna win no matter what. I don't know how I'm gonna win my hand, but whether it be through bluffing people or doing something, I'm gonna figure it out. And so I think I kind of got to a point like, you know what, like I might not have all the answers right now, but I'm going to have all the answers at some point in my life. And I'm going to keep working my butt off to try and get to that. And so I think it was the confidence more in myself, like as a human being, and my work ethic and my character, of like, you know what, like nobody's going to put in this work to try and get to where you need to be, even like, and then you already have really good physical gifts. So, let's use those two things. And like when there's times you are struggling, so let's say I'm not the best defender at this point, and but there's other things that I can do to help offset that. So in the process of becoming the best defender that I can be, let me also do the things that I do really well and help me still win while I'm learning that. And I think that confidence is kind of like building it through that and not necessarily harping on the negative, but kind of, you know what, we did this really well today. You always do this really well. So let's keep doing that whenever we're in competition, because we know we can win that way. So I think that builds that confidence.
Whether you know it or not, you just basically talked about something that people talk about in psychology, sports psychology, and actually sales, which is called future pacing. And that the confidence in your future, where you're at or where you're struggling right now, that's not where your mind focuses once you get into trouble. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you take a look at, yeah, but this isn't where I'm going to be.
Mm-hmm.
This is a step along the way, because you see yourself as a champion in 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 years, but you say, this was one of those things that I had to learn. This is a month-long struggle that I have to go through in order to bring me to that next level. Instead of sitting in that misery and saying, this is where it sucks, you say, this your mind doesn't say this is where it sucks. You say, this is where it's going to be great because of
Yeah.
this.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
like
And
that.
I don't know. It's just, I feel like there's just like a resilience in me that I don't know, it's just kind of always been there. And it's funny if we talk about it, there's just like New Orleans as a whole is kind of just a resilient city in the fact, I mean, like think about like hurricanes and stuff like that. And just like it always feels like there's a lot of stuff that gets beat down there, but we're just like that Rocky type of like, it hit me 6 times, knock me down 6 times, I'm still gonna get up seven. And I think just that kind of like grit and determination that, I mean, it's just all over in the city. I mean, a lot of great athletes have come out of there, and I think it's just kind of taught in our sports there growing up.
Do you visualize? Do you have any like techniques where you say you have a picture of yourself mentally, or an actual picture of yourself, or a picture of somebody else that you've cut out your face on and pasted it on in your bedroom, that you hold on to that picture? Or is it just the idea of like, hey, I'm going to be the top defender in the US, so that's the mental picture that I have? Or is it you like sitting on a podium, or is it you doing interviews afterwards? Do you do any of that visualization?
I think in my brain, it's one, I know that I can be the best defender in the U.S., and that's a goal. Two, I know I can be an Olympian. And then three, I know I can win a gold medal in the FIVB, if not the Olympics. And that's what I tell myself in my head. And you know, when you first start like thinking about those things, you're like, no, you're crazy, whatever. And like I think a lot of people when they hear that stuff, they're like, oh, it's crazy. But it's interesting because I feel like the more that you think about that, and then the more that you put the work in towards it, the more that you start, you know what, this can happen. This can happen. This actually can happen. And so I feel like I thought about that like a couple of years ago in college, and I was like, you know what, I could play professional volleyball. Like and at that point you're like, yeah, you're crazy. And then like you're like just getting and breaking into professional volleyball, and then you're like, oh no, I can keep pushing this further. And so I think it's more of chasing. And I listened to this, and Matthew McConaughey has like this great line, and the person that he looks up to is himself 10 years from now.
That's awesome.
And so he's always going to be chasing that person. I think that's kind of how it's going to evolve for me, because like thinking back on it now is like, oh, like this dream and like this vision of who I could be as an athlete just keeps evolving. And so I think it's just going to continue to like me from like 2 years, 3 years from now. That's who I'm chasing after, because that's who I feel like I can be. And
that's so great. And Matthew McConaughey has got a very interesting story where he didn't work for like 5 years.
Yeah, because he didn't want to be that. Well, he didn't want to be stuck in his one role.
Yeah.
And then he got what, $13.5 million offer for one movie, and he declined it because he was like, nope, I'm refusing to be in this role anymore, and I want to expand my limits as an actor, which is awesome.
Can you imagine if you take that from Hollywood, from Matthew McConaughey? Like he wasn't getting jobs. It's not that he left Hollywood. He just wasn't getting jobs because he wouldn't be there. Imagine winning a bunch and then doing a position shift, saying like, pulling an Avery and going from blocker to defender for a little while. Or right now, Troy, who's gone from blocker to defender, right? Try and Trevor, a bunch of people who made these shifts. But imagine going for a 4 or 5 year span without winning a tournament, whether a major one or a middle one.
It's almost like being like a qualifier player for like 4 or 5 years, like staying in the qualifier after you've already been in the main, and then you're back in the qualifier for 4 or 5 years. Don't qualify once, and but you're like, you know what? No, this is going to pay off.
Yeah, it's a fun route, and it waves. I think the confidence that you're talking about, sometimes it does waves, because you said that it sounded crazy in the beginning. I kind of had straight up confidence in the beginning, and then it waved back down where you have enough losses and you're like, oh man, you don't know if that was just childish confidence. And then you start getting some wins, you start packing on some new skills, you get some big wins. You're like, oh, I got this again. And if you can fight through those little dips of confidence and hold on to the future pacing like we talked about, you're just going to keep going. And people get stuck into where they are instead of where they are going to be. And I think people need to continue to do that. Players need to continue to hold on to where they're going to be, just like you said. Well, just a couple more questions that we have. So I just want to ask you, are there any tools, equipment, food, supplements, or just must-haves that you always need at home, at practice, at the gym, or on the road while you're competing or while you're just relaxing?
I think a big one, and I've kind of gotten to a habit of it, is like 2 to 3 times a week, like hydration, whatever kind of powder or whatever, at least doing that, like that 2 to 3 times a week, regardless of
hydration powder. What do you mean?
Like those little like liquid IV packets or any of that kind of stuff that people love to drink for tournaments. I've kind of noticed that if I do that like 2 to 3 times a week, it helps me out like muscle wise, and it helps me recovery wise. I feel like I'm not like, because like sometimes my muscles, I have like problems,
huge
like,
muscles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. And so like, but like, I mean, like, but that's a lot of muscle to like constantly be like straining. And so like I'll notice my muscles get super, super like tight, and like not like I'm not gonna cramp, but it feels like I'm gonna cramp, and like that tightness.
The tightness, really,
really is pretty relieved if I'm like staying on top of that. And I mean, drinking a lot of water does stuff to a certain extent, but I've noticed that like if you don't get those electrolytes in you, like you don't retain the water as well. So that one's a huge thing for me. So I don't have a specific brand or anything like that I swear by, but like hydration, like electrolytes are a must. This is going to sound really, really weird, but at tournaments and it's kind of just like my superstition, gummy bears. Because like I like 20 minutes before a match, I'll just like eat a mouthful, and like it's like because gummy bears instantly turn into like that sugar in your body and like spikes your blood sugar levels, and like I'm like ready to go before the match then. And it usually sustains pretty well for the length of a match, about the time that like you need to go. So that, especially like in those longer tournament days, I mean AVPs and stuff now are maybe playing way less matches. It's not going to be as important, but like those
Right.
5-6 match days, on match like 4 or 5, when you're like, man, I'm tired, it gets you up, it gets you going for that next match. And that was one of the things. And I mean, most people are like, oh, but it's not healthy. Well, you're burning 5,000 calories in a day. You're able to afford some like artificial sugar that's going to get you going.
Are there better ways for people out there? Like, number one, superstition, a little mental help, a little mental kick. Like, I'm the gummy bear guy, and that gives me the confidence. Yeah, that sugar 20 minutes before, perfect timing. You
Yeah.
know, I would say maybe then at like if you're 30 minutes into a match, hopefully you just wipe this team out and it's like a 38-minute match. But after that first set, another half a handful just to make sure that sugar kick stays high. That's
Yeah.
how it works. And you could do it with fruit or some better sugars, but any little bit of sugar at that point, so long as you didn't take it an hour before the match and now you're on the sugar downswing,
Mhm.
that'll be bad timing. But 20 minutes before the match is perfect. And then if you can just keep it with a couple more, like supplement yourself
Yep.
with a gummy bear every side switch.
It just makes the
Keep them
soul
in your
happy too.
pocket,
I
just get
think
them nice and sandy.
long grueling day, it keeps the soul happy. So that's
Gummy bears are always happy. They got the little hands and
yes, exactly.
you don't see the frowning gummy bears. They always got a smile.
Let's see what else. I'm pretty big lacrosse ball person. I always have a lacrosse ball in my bag to roll out. I film all of our stuff. I'm huge on trying to keep a video data
Mhm.
bank of everything, and I've actually taken your recommendation. We have a private group for our practices now that I get to watch on Facebook Live.
Smart.
Um, I mean, we can go and watch stuff on Zoom as a team. I have
Yeah.
4 or 5 people, and we're just like, all right, we share the screen and just play it, and we
Mhm.
could talk about it all at once, and it's really, really helpful. So I keep tripod, charger, a portable charger with me, bands, like the ones that go around your ankles and stuff. I think those are the most universal, because you
Yeah.
can also do some stuff with shoulders and stuff if you really need to. Um, and that is about it. I'm pretty big on like recovery tools. I mean, like to help supplement, but I think stretching is more important than like using the Theragun. I think people want to just use that as like oh, okay, I'll just Theragun and I'm good to go. I don't need to stretch.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
I
if
have
anything,
all of,
it's Theragun before stretch because the Theragun will shut off the nerve endings so that you're less sensitive, which means that you can get into a deeper range. So if you're just Theragunning for no reason, like you might shut off some nerve endings if you're sensitive or in pain, but then you need to increase your range after that. So it should always be massage, then stretch, then stretch to deepen that range of motion. And hopefully you can develop a little bit of strength in that deeper range.
yeah. So, I mean, I have all kinds of different stuff for that, but I think the stretching is more important. And then I have, I've had knee problems since college, and
Mm,
uh, I mean, jumping and hitting as much as I did, it takes a toll. And so, I mean, I have this thing. It does heat and cooling. It's not like the full, I think, temperature of ice, but it's pretty close. And I travel with that everywhere because I think that helps me a lot.
cool.
Um, Kind of gets the knee warmed up for practice, or after practice, kind of cools it down and gets everything feeling right after.
Nice. Okay, last question, Ev. Are there any projects or any things that you're working on outside of just competing in volleyball that you want to share with anybody?
Yeah, so I mean, I have my own like clothing line,
Awesome.
um, bluenosebeach.com. It's just one way for people to both like rep me if they want to, and also support me because all of the profits just go to me. And I think it's a good way, like at tournaments, like there's people that have certain things that people, you know what I mean? I want to be able to recognize if somebody's my fan,
Hmm.
because that makes me like see them, and then you know what, I'm gonna go and have a conversation with that person because like thank you. Like to me, if you're help supporting my journey, like your family, like, and that's it means a lot because for most beach volleyball players, it's not easy to try and get this like career off and running. Um, so any kind of support, any even like $10, you know what I mean? I mean, like I make $10 on each shirt after everything, and so it's
That's
like,
great.
hey, you just paid for like my meal at the tournament by
Yeah.
buying it,
And
something
you're
like that.
giving them something.
Yeah,
The whole Patreon, GoFundMe stuff really bothers me
hmm
when people aren't giving their fans or their supporters something that they'll enjoy, something that they'll value. Hey, support me while I play a game, even though there are tons of other bad things happening in the world. Like, at least give something back to
yeah,
the world. Give them something that they'll enjoy, something that they'll like, apparel that they're going to love wearing, and is going to generate some conversation. That's something good. But if you're sitting there and you're just I have a big problem with
yeah,
the beg for money with GoFundMe and with Patreon when you're
yeah.
not providing something for a business
hmm
or for an individual, something that they'll enjoy, something that they'll benefit from. I have a huge problem with that. Players need it. There's no doubt that we need money, but to go around and with a handout when we're living a pretty privileged life and we can already spend 4 hours a day on the beach and
Yeah.
working out, it's like, mm, you know what, you're gonna have to do something better for me. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that the people who have the money and want to support athletes shouldn't,
hmm
but there's got to be a balance of, can I provide something instead of ask for something?
Yeah,
um,
I do Patreon as well, but I was pretty big because like I was weighing options and I didn't want to do a GoFundMe because I feel like that's the biggest handout when you're just like,
mm,
hey, I have this dream, can you support it? So for my Patreon, I mean, like I give like weekly updates, I give a calendar of where I'm going to be, I give workouts. So this is where I was like, you know what, I
nice,
need what people value. I need to
great,
give workouts and I need to give practice like stuff, because like then at that point now you're getting an inside look at my life and you're getting an
hmm
inside look at what a professional athlete is doing to try and prepare.
yeah, and
um
how they can prepare.
yeah, so and I think and just kind of and I'll give in my weekly updates, sometimes it's not just like, oh yeah, this is what I did this week. I try to find like a lesson or something I've like thought about and learned this week,
Great.
and like give like a little bit of insight behind what I'm thinking at a certain point in time. Like, okay, like this week I was goal setting. I was trying to figure out what goals I was doing, what goes behind picking out my goals, what goes behind like the mindset that I have going into a tournament. You know what I mean? Giving something like a little bit extra, because I feel
Yeah.
like for the most part, people are just gonna be like, "Yeah, here's what I did this week," and I'm just like, "Oh, well, that's not that interesting."
Yeah, and if if you're a great writer, if you're somebody like Travis who can make it an entertaining and educating read, then that's good. That's something that you are actually providing.
Mhm.
You know. All right. If you guys want to follow him on Instagram, it is Evan Cory
Yep.
Volley. You guys can check it out. Go ahead, give him a follow, and check out his website and his clothes over at
Yeah.
bluenosebeach.com. If you are here live right now, you can come on to the chat and enter it into YouTube or our Facebook group, and you can ask me and Evan some questions. First one is from Diana Marquez. She asked, Mark, where can I get one of your shirts? Diana, if you want to check out some Better at Beach shirts, you can head to betteratbeach.com/shop and you can check out the apparel there. Click on the apparel, it'll bring you to Teespring and you can order those shirts. If you want to get some gear from Evan, you go to bluenosebeach.com. Bluenosebeach.com. Christine Bredehoft says, Hi, Evan. So good to see you. And she gave you a little heart.
That's a SOB person from Colorado.
Nice. Love it. Getting the beach volleyball vacation circuit. You coach for us, you coach for SOB. Did you do the volleyball vacations?
I did, and
Nice.
Turks as well.
So you've got all three.
I just have.
You've done the whole circle. I love it.
Yeah.
Birch.
And for anybody asking, there is no preference. I think they're all very different experiences, and they're all great. So
Thanks, buddy. Except ours are the best. But
if you want to get better,
Ron Birch says, kick some butt in Mexico tomorrow. My son's girlfriend is there, and maybe she'll swing by and watch.
sweet.
Tammy Clark Knapp, how you doing? I kept trying to convince my kids to
Me.
play. All I had to do was tell them that they can't play. I would be careful with that, Tammy. Sometimes you can knock somebody down and they will never return. When you tell somebody they can't do something, it's confidence is a weird, fickle thing with some people. And if you tell them that they can't, a large majority will shut down. And it's not that there's anything wrong with them. It's just that will hit them in a certain way that, I don't know, they might not ever return to something that they love. And so I like the support that you were given, Evan, aside, you were given the opportunity to play, and that's when it hit you up.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was any benefit from keeping you on the sidelines for 2 years, but the opportunity to play and telling you that you can is what really fired you up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, John, thanks for your input. He'd rather watch play sports than watch any day. Monica said rail splitter. Do you know what that means?
That's Lincoln Memorial. That's our mascot, the rail
What?
splitter.
The
Yes.
Lincoln Memorial Rail
Rail
Splitters.
Splitters. Yeah. So this school was founded in honor of Abraham Lincoln, and one of his nicknames was the rail splitter because basically what he used to do back in the day, he'd cut railroad ties, split the railroad ties, and he was a rail splitter.
There you
Fun.
go. That is a fun fact.
And our mascot is literally Abe Lincoln with the top hat, and he carries around an axe. It is so sick.
Well, hey, next question. Grabowski, love you, buddy. Thanks for following the conversation. Chris Littleman, do you know Chris Littleman?
I feel like I do.
Strong player who used to absolutely poop on me when I first came out to Huntington. And he is now up in Seattle, Washington, maybe. And he plays at Seaside a lot.
Okay.
And he loves hitting jumbos for how much it just demoralizes people. And he says, how many jumbos need to go down before you cheat to the jumbo? That is
thankfully for me, if I'm playing in the angle,
Mhm.
I am probably one of the more rangy defenders just because of my height, and I don't ever like think about the jumbo. If it comes at me, I usually can just jump up and like get it in an
Right.
awkward way. And I mean, that's kind of what you do with jumbos. You don't really ever just like, oh yeah, I'm planning for the jumbo.
Yeah. There's like two players that I can think of where you sit there and he's gonna go to a jumbo at some point, and I usually know when it's about to happen. But everybody who is
I feel like
so
both of these players you're
concerned
about to
about that shot.
before you're about to say the people, I just want to guess. Is it Phipps? Justin Phipps is one of mine.
I haven't played him in so long, so maybe he used to get me before I was thinking this
Then
way.
somebody like a Dana Camacho is like the
Yes,
people I were
he's
thinking.
somebody who comes to mind for sure. You know who, like Hayden.
Yeah.
Hayden will go for a jumbo at some point when he's in trouble, and you got to know that he's pulling that out, because when he's trapped, when a lot of great players are trapped, great defenders usually think, okay, now they're going to go somewhere short around the block, so I'm going to step up. And great attackers know that great defenders are thinking that, so they punch it deep and fast. And so you got to play that little balance game where you don't sprint behind your blocker, where you step up, but you're still ready to sprint instead of sprinting to location you think it's going to be. So you got to hold that ground real nice. And for anybody who's like so concerned about getting jumbled all the time, it's not going to happen a lot. Just stay at 3/4 depth. If it does happen, jump and tomahawk or take a step back, but take that out of your concern unless you're one of the 5'2" people who really needs to be quick on the ground. And in that case, don't jump and go. Keep your
Trying to
ass
burn.
keep your ass low to the ground. And then when the ball goes up, you can't let your head or chest go up. You got to sit your butt down so that you can run. But people lose the ability to run when their chest and their head come up. So Norseca is happening tomorrow in Mexico. When's the tournament start? And are you going to attempt to live stream? Is it going to be live streaming anywhere?
Yeah, so my goal is to live stream on my Facebook because I don't think it's going to be streamed anywhere, and hopefully I don't know what the rights thing in Mexico will be or anything. Hopefully that doesn't run any issues, but my goal is to kind of live stream, and then it'll be on my Facebook, and it starts on Friday.
Okay.
So we were required to be there on Thursday by 6 p.m. Kind of check in, do all like the formal stuff, and then Friday is pool play. Saturday, Sunday, I think is playoffs.
From experience, if you don't bring a jersey, they might not have one for you. I'm sure
I have to
Bill
go.
may have told you.
I'm running in about 45 minutes to go pick one up from Sean Scott at USA.
Good. Yeah. We were not told about that before we went, and we're like, yeah, we're going to a professional continental tour tournament. They're gonna give us a tank top, right? So we didn't even think about that, and then we had to run around and get Sharpies and get matching. Like, we had to cut our own jerseys, and we had to draw the number 1 and 2 and USA on it for the entire tournament.
A nice little Hanes
Anyway.
white beater.
We supported the local economy, so that's fine. Ron Birch wants to know about the Blue Nose.
Yeah. So it was born out of necessity. It's not born out of showmanship. It was during COVID. I was out in the sun a ton, and I was like, damn, my nose is getting charred. Like always, no matter how much sunscreen I'd put on a tournament, it was just, I mean, in the Southeast, it gets hot. Like, and that's just like a fact of it. And it didn't really matter how much I would reapply throughout a day. So I was like, I'm just going to go buy like the sunscreen that lifeguards wear, the zinc oxide. I knew it was zinc oxide sunscreen. So I just went and looked it up on the internet, and the first thing that pulled up was this company called Zinka, Zinka. And they just happened to have colored sunscreen. And I always, like before even the Blue Nose, I always wore a blue hat since I was like 15 years old. I guess I've always worn the same hat playing. And then I was like, I'll just match the color of the nose to the hat, just kind of make it cool looking instead of just like an idiot.
And now you got a brand.
Yeah, and so I mean, the first tournament I went and played after it was up at Grand Sands in Ohio, and it was like the first big one after COVID kind of hit, and I won the tournament, and everybody's like, "Who's this kid with the blue nose?" So there you go. Why am I going to change it? Everybody's, "Who's this kid with the blue nose?" I'm going to keep being the kid with the blue nose.
That's it. Easy to find at tournaments. Is it going to stay for the AVP in Norseca? Nice. Yep. I like it. Well, you got a website now, so you can't. Now you're attached to it forever. Okay, Patty Miller says hello and best of luck this season. Chris Bredoff says, good to see you. If you're coming to Denver for the AVP with Sammy, you've got a place to stay. Daniel Stevens would like to know like one piece of quick advice for attacking against a 4-block.
So I think a huge key for attacking against a 4-block is having a good angle in your approach, because it opens up your vision to see the blocker kind of making that move across the net. And then also it kind of opens up your peripherals, and like if you're staring that defender down in the angle and he makes a big move like a little too early, you can see that move and you should be able to just shoot that ball over angle. Or if you only see the blocker and you're able to attack up high aggressively, then they're running that 4, they're both moving, you see the block move, then you can just kind of come cross body and attack that pretty aggressively.
Do you go into the mindset where you want to bang away from the blocker, or do you want to shoot over the blocker? I feel like you're a banger. But
yeah, and I mean, I'll even attack at the blocker. I don't care. Like, I mean, I've played indoor enough to where I can attack high hands and feel pretty comfortable about it. So I'm not afraid to challenge the block. But also, if I know that they're getting into this game of moving around a lot and they're trying to run a 4 or something on me, because a lot of teams, that's what they kind of try and do is like, okay, we've let him hit a couple times, and then let's run a 4 and let's try and be like a little sneaky about it. He's either going to shoot a high line, trying to go over the block, or try and bang this ball angle. And so whenever that happens, I usually am just like, oh, you see me? Okay, just hit the ball away, because you're selling out. Most of the time they're just selling out and trying to get that high line or the hard swing.
Okay. So if you've got the height and you like swinging, stay with the swing. If you're a shooter, then look for the blocker, look for the defender, and either shoot over the blocker. Brad Keenan used to say, I just used to look for the block, and if I wanted to shoot, I would hit over them. Like, he never looked at a defender once, he says. I was just like, that always baffled me. But
Just run doubles on Brad Keenan, I guess. Double up.
and do you come in looking to hit one angle? So for me, I like to come in thinking I'm going to hit one shot. Whether it's a high line, whether it's a cut shot, whether it's a cross, and then I have an off switch where if I see something, then I'll hit the next thing. Is that what you like to do, or do you like to go up with a blank slate?
I think I'm always up in the air looking to swing if I can. And then it kind of changes from there, because since challenging the blocker, you've got to wait and see where the blocker's at and stuff like that. But I'm always looking up to go up and attack aggressively, because then that makes defenders think a little bit extra. I think sometimes if I go up thinking to shoot, then I slow down my approach. I slow down my arm, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, we can just wait and watch and see what you're going to go and hit now. So I always try and come in aggressively, because I think that opens up my offense. The defenders don't know what to do as much. And so that helps me out, I think.
It's funny. I think now when I'm looking for shoots, I come in super hard. And I like make sure that my arm moves almost faster than it does when it swings, because I'm like, I got to make sure that I sell this shoot.
I gotta sell this.
But that was way different than what I used to do. It used to be all slow arm and everything. But now I whip my arm through my shots. Laura Tucker says,
"Hi, Mom."
That's your mom?
Yeah.
Nice. She wants to know what you're looking forward to most this year on tour.
I think it's just getting to experience my first full year on tour and traveling for an entire year. Last year it was 3 events, and there was a lot of grassroots stuff, and 2020 was all grassroots. There was no AVP. And so this year, I finally get a full schedule. I finally get the opportunity to go and play some international. So just getting to experience everything. And I want to kind of soak that all in at the same time as trying to win. You know what I mean? But I think it's going to be cool. And it's something I think you can't take for granted. You know what I mean? I want to take it in, and I want to be able to feel those emotions of the first time going places and traveling and doing all these cool things, because it's like you were saying, it's an opportunity of stuff that we get to do that most people don't get to. And so I want to take advantage of that also while competing at a high level.
Cool. How many times, Eric wants to know how many times you're practicing on the sand right now?
So as of right now, we're 3 to 4 times a week on the sand, and then 3 to 4 times in the gym as well.
Okay. And it's about a 2-hour practice and a 1.5-hour lift. That's
yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then there's 30-ish minute thing that we kind of do 30, 45 minutes. That's every day that my strength and conditioning coach has me doing.
Okay. Is that a mobility or a conditioning or a?
It's more deficiency in what he's been seeing. Okay, let's build these muscles up every day. Whereas we'll do the whole body and whatever we're focusing on as a team, these 3 to 4 days, but every day you need to be doing this so you can catch up to where you need to be. And then stretching and stuff on top of that, which I feel is another hour in the day at least.
Nice. Is that like a glute activation or a back pedal or a side shuffle? Or you don't have to share it?
Yeah, it's a lot of posterior chain stuff for me. A lot of hamstrings, a lot of glutes, because I have really large quads, but I don't have massively large hamstrings or glutes.
Well, it's nice to have a trainer who can see that and then give you that homework. That's such an advantage for people who, kind of go it on their own all the time. A lot of times your strengths and your weaknesses hide from you. Or they hide behind your picture of yourself. And that is not an objective picture. And to have somebody, a coach, a trainer, just looking at that, even if it's once a week, to say, hey, here's your homework for the week. Boom, boom, boom. But if if you're somebody who sees a trainer once a week and you don't get a homework assignment from them, you're wasting your time and money. Yeah, and they're not doing their job. Okay. Rucky Life asks, what's the hardest part of living and training in California?
I think the hardest part of just being a professional athlete is the discipline it takes. Because there's a lot of times, I'm 24 years old. I have a lot of friends. They have a lot of social life and stuff like that. But there's times where you have to say no. And like I think like at a younger age, that's really hard to do, especially like you see your friends going out and having fun, but it's 2 days before a tournament. It's Wednesday or Thursday, and you're like, you know what? If I go and drink tonight, I'm not going to perform at my highest level. So I think it's living the discipline. It's I love fried chicken, but guess what? I ain't getting to eat fried chicken because it ain't healthy for me right now.
And it doesn't exist in California. It's all raw,
So I think
naked, faux chicken, vegan.
and I think that kind of creates the difference between the highest level and the lower qualifier level players is that discipline day in and day out. Because it is every single day. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think if you can't do that every single day, if you take 2 days off, if you take your Saturday, Sunday off, you're not doing what you need to do.
Right. And I see people come to California and you're like, yeah, you made the first big step. I'm proud of you. You're going to go get it. And then they get into the wrong crowd, the wrong life, or the wrong temptations, or the wrong part-time job
Mm-hmm.
that crushes them,
Pushing
introduces
too
them to
much. Yeah.
party life, changes their sleep pattern to a point where, if you're bartending, right? You think like, you know what? I can bartend. Well, if you're bartending, you're on your feet all day long. You're bending over, so your low back is shot. You're tempted to drink all the time. You're probably meeting a bunch of guys and girls, and that's like gonna try to zap your time away. And
Yeah.
you have to figure out what you're gonna do to support yourself that is going to take away from your volleyball the
Mhm.
least. Because if you stay up till 4 a.m. during the week, your body's gonna want to stay up till 4 a.m. during a tournament, and you're gonna be screwed. Like
Yeah.
that's the time when you fire up is after 11 p.m. if you're a bartender, right?
Yeah.
And that is not serving you on the court. So too many people get out here and then they get, Californicationed and
Mhm.
they forget why they came. It was for
Yeah.
volleyball.
Thanks for having me on, and looking forward to a good year. Good.
Hell yeah,
See
man.
you in Austin.
See you in Austin. Good luck. Appreciate your time. Guys, go follow him at Evan Cory Volley on Instagram and check out his swag collection and maybe join his Patreon so you can get his practice updates. Check that out at bluenosevolley.com.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah. Of
Thanks, Evan. Appreciate you. Have a good
course.
one, man.
See ya.